Hi, good morning. We've got the most glorious day today weather-wise. I'm going to do potato focaccia, which is one of my favorite things ever. I think it's an old Annabelle Langbein recipe. I use it a lot. So all I'm going to do first is to teach you how to bloom the yeast if you haven't done it before. Basically, it's just checking that your yeast is active. So I've got half a cup of water here. I'm literally going to just a tip of a teaspoon of sugar, and I'm going to pour in my yeast, which is a 7-gram packet. Give it a stir. You can see what it looks like, and then you'll see it's already started blooming, which is a great sign. It means that it's not old yeast, so that's great. Right, while the yeast is blooming, let's crack on with the rest of it. I will post the recipe for this because this is quite specific. It is 4.5 cups of white bread flour. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and a bit. So let's just do a little half there. Okay. And then I have pre-boiled potato. So this is mashed potato. No butter, no milk or anything must be in there. And this is a cup that we need of cooked mashed potato. Okay, that goes in. We need 2 teaspoons of salt. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of dry rosemary, and unfortunately I haven't got any fresh herbs as yet here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of dried rosemary inside there, just for a little bit of flavor. And then we need a total of 1.5 cups of warm water. So I've got half a cup in there already. And then I'm just going to add this now, because you can see, it hasn't bloomed fully, but it's bloomed enough so that I know that the yeast is active. Okay, so I'm just going to add a cup of warm water to this. So I've added it to my yeast. And then I am going to add this all in. And at the same time I need 1/4 cup of olive oil. So that goes in as well. So now we're going to give this a stir. And this needs to rise for about an hour. The potato gives it a lovely texture, and it gives it sort of lovely moisture. It's such a great recipe, this. I've never made this where it doesn't get absolutely decimated by my friends in a heartbeat. Right, let's bring this together. Okay, I'm going to give it a bit of a knead, just to incorporate the potato nicely in there. We want the dough to be nice and elastic, and then it will just go and rest for an hour and rise. Then it will be fine. So that's going to go in there. with the lid on to rise. Right, the dough has been resting for an hour. Have a look at it. So a good thing is if you press it like that, and if it doesn't spring back immediately, then this is done. You know, it's risen beautifully. So we're going to take it out. We're going to roll it out to fit. I've put this piece of baking paper into my tray and made an indentation so that I know exactly how big to make this. So a little knead, and then we're going to flatten it out and roll it into a rectangle, and then we're going to let it rest for another 20 minutes. I don't want to flour it, but I'm going to have to probably flour it a little bit. I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Okay, let's put it onto here because I can stretch it actually while it's on there if I need to. So put it onto your baking paper, because you're going to bake it on the baking paper. I've made this a little bit big, but that's fine. It's not an issue. There we go. So now we're going to leave it to rest for 20 minutes. I'm going to rub a tiny bit of olive oil on here, just so that it doesn't get a big skin on it, because it still needs to rise a little bit more, but also because it's going to have olive oil drizzled over it anyway. Right, so that's okay. That'll be fine. Right, the oven has been on now to get really hot, and the baking tray is in there. If you've got a pizza stone, that is fantastic for this, but you put your pizza stone in when the oven is cold. Otherwise, that's the first way, the easiest way you're going to crack your pizza stone. So my baking tray is nice and hot. This has been resting for 20 minutes. And at this stage, I'm going to do this in 3 parts, just to show you what you can do with it. And luckily for me, my lovely neighbor Carol has just given me some fresh rosemary and some fresh thyme, so I'm going to be able to use that. So I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see. Put your fingers in like this, so that you get little dents in your dough. Okay, then we're going to get, this is a beautiful salt mixture that I have. It's sea salt with some seaweed and stuff in it. So that's going to be sprinkled on. Then I'm going to get some fresh thyme, and I'm going to just put it in. It's been washed. And then let's do some olives in the middle here. And then we're going to do some rosemary on this side here, which is the sort of traditional way of doing it. Right, then you're going to drizzle olive oil all over it. Like that. Okay, so now we're going to get this hot tray out of the oven. And then we're going to just transfer this into the tray and then stick it back into the oven. And this is going to be for about 25 to 30 minutes on very hot. Okay, so my oven goes up to 250 and that's where I've put it up. Right, I've got about 8 minutes left on my time and I'm going to cancel it because I checked on the focaccia, and I have mentioned before that this oven is unbelievable. And you can see it's just beginning to brown on the sides there. So this is done. So you need to check the timing on anything you ever do because of the efficiency of your oven. So let's just check. You want to hear the hollow sound. When you tap it, then you know it's done. So I'm going to remove this paper and let it cool. And then we can try it. And that really is as easy as it is to make this focaccia, and it is utterly delicious. The next thing we're going to do, I think, is going to be macaroni cheese. Well, this is a cooking show during lockdown, so that's all for today. Beautiful. I'm just going to cut some for my neighbors. This is the best way to make friends with new neighbors.